We love our pets. They're our best friends as we navigate life's ups and downs with a wag or a purr just when we need it. The Royal Veterinary College is there for our pets, home to Europe's largest small animal referrals hospital, with over 200 specialists providing expert care 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. The bond between a pet and their person is worth fighting for, and that's the belief that inspired the RVC Memory Tree, a beautiful handmade sculpture standing in the heart of the RVC Small Animal Referrals Hospital, adorned with gold, silver and copper leaves, each one engraved with the name of a beloved pet, and each one funding the extraordinary work happening there every day. For just £10 a month, you can dedicate a leaf in the name of your pet, celebrating your pet's life, whilst also helping to fund life-saving treatment and care for animals in need. Visit rvcact.com/memory tree to dedicate a leaf today and let your pet's memory live on.
Hello, and welcome to It's a Fandom Thing. I'm your host, Erin Marlowe, and each week I'm joined by a panel of guests to discuss all things fandom and pop culture, primarily from a female perspective. You'll find everything from fanfic to cosplay to Schitt's Creek to Supernatural and everything in between. So put on your favorite piece of fandom merch, set aside that fanfic that you're writing about your OTP, and sit back and enjoy this week's episode. Hello, and welcome to this very special episode of It's a Fandom Thing. I'm your host, Erin Marlowe, and I am giving you a little treat while I am traveling right now, and that is the previously only available to our Patreon subscribers episode where we discuss the first 2 seasons of Interview with the Vampire, the television show, of course. I wanted to release this as a way of celebrating the vampire Lestat, and also just as a little treat for you while I am away. And if you want to get other great bonus content like this, including a bonus episode discussing the vampire Lestat that we will be dropping in August, you'll want to become a Patreon supporter today. For as little as $3 a month, you get ad-free content, episodes a day early, and special bonus episodes just like the one you are about to hear. So click the link in the show notes or head on over to our website. It's a fandomthingpod.com. Click the Support Us tab there, and you will find the link to our Patreon. So please enjoy this episode featuring Ishel and my podcast brain twin, Jen, from my streaming bubble. Hello, and welcome to this special bonus episode for our Patreon subscribers. You know, we covered Interview with the Vampire, the movie, earlier as a regular episode. And Ishel was on that, and Ishel's joining me today too. And I'm going to introduce my panel in a minute. And I had decided that I would try to watch the show. I kept wanting to watch the show because people kept telling me about it, and vampires are my favorite in the monster universe. And I was surprised I hadn't watched it yet. And then I watched it, and I was like 2 episodes in or something. And I messaged Ishel and Jen, who's also on, and said, okay, we're going to do an episode on this, a bonus. So it was pretty easy for me to decide to do that. So I'm excited to talk about Interview with the Vampire, the TV show. But let me introduce my 2 wonderful panelists who are joining me for this special episode. So from Liberty Diner Dish, and she was also on our Interview with the Vampire movie one, Ishel. Hello, Ishel.
Hello, Erin, and hello, patrons. Thanks for supporting It's a Fandom Thing Pod. I'm very excited to be here. I'm very excited to talk about this with Erin and Jen because I was one of those people pressuring Erin to watch this show, so very excited.
But it's a good pressure, so I pressured you to watch the movie. So, and then also joining me is my podcast brain twin, Jen from my streaming bubble, and also my co-host from Twitter to Witted Pod. Hey, Jen.
Hello, Erin. Hello, Michelle. Hello, Patreons. Thank you for having me. I'm super duper excited to talk about this show.
Yeah, I think we all are excited. I do want to give spoiler warnings. We're going to be spoiling. We've all seen, you've seen all of season 2, right?
Yep.
Both of you have.
Yep.
Okay. I thought you did, but I just wanted to make sure. So we're going to be spoiling season 1 and season 2. So if you haven't seen it yet and you want to watch this show, please, please, please go watch this show. Go watch both seasons and then come back and listen to this. Trigger warnings for, well, it's vampires, so blood sucking. I don't know if that's a trigger for you. There is, of course, racism. There is some homophobia in here as well. Child endangerment, stuff like that with Claudia. And also mental health issues, attempted suicide. So want to put that out there as well. Suicidal ideation, I think, could fit into this too. Any other triggers I'm forgetting?
What happened to Claudia?
Yeah. Claudia, you mean being burned alive like that?
No, season one.
Oh, assault.
Assault.
Yes.
Assault.
Yeah.
Yes, sexual assault, eating disorder. Yeah, thank you. So there are your trigger warnings. I will give you a brief description. This is, of course, based on the Anne Rice novels. I think it's going to be based on much of them. The whole series, the vampire series, that follows Louis Dupont's epic story of love, blood, and the perils of immortality, as told to the journalist Daniel Malloy. It stars Jacob Anderson as Louis, Sam Reed as Lestat, Eric Boygeson, I'm sorry, I should look that up, as Daniel Malloy, Assad Zaman as Armand. There's a couple of actresses that played Claudia, and it's only showing me the first one. Delaney Hales as Claudia, and I think that was just in the second season. And Bailey Bass played Claudia in the first season. Ben Daniels as Santiago, Esme Appleton as Estelle, and a bunch of other people. I'm going to stop there. So what I first want to know, Ishel, is on a scale of 1 to 5 vampire bites, what do you rate this show?
I am giving it 5 vampire bites for like set and costume design, for how immersive things felt in New Orleans. Like you could just really like feel the culture of New Orleans there, for how they pulled in bits of history, like from real history, bits of vampire lore, pieces from the source material, for the writing, which is very layered and clever because they are telling a linear but not exactly linear story, and then they're like retconning their own narrative. And then they're asking you to question that narrative, and they're questioning that narrative. And so it's very cleverly done, but mostly for the acting, which I think is just top notch pretty much across the board. Like even there is someone that I do not like, but the actor playing them is knocking it out of the park. So I'm giving it 5 vampire bites.
And Jen?
I, too, have to give this 5 big, slurpy, sloppy, sexy vampire bites because I love this show. It's one where when I first started watching the first season and getting kind of a couple episodes in, I'm at work and I can't stop thinking it. Like I felt like what Louis was describing with his being mesmerized by Lestat. I was like, this show is Lestat and I am Louis and I can't stop thinking about it and I just can't wait to go home and be able to finish it. And it's so good. Everything Ishel said, from acting to costume to set, it's all amazing. Absolutely love it. Very excited. Yay.
Yes, I too am giving this 5 vampire bites. You know, like I said, this is my favorite in the monster genre of horror is vampires. And so sometimes I can be picky about it. This show is so incredible. This show is so good. And I understand there are some critiques also of the fact that this is too much about love and soap opera, and I'm like, what? No, it just delves deeper into the characters and their relationships with each other, in my opinion. And I think the writing is spectacular. The performances are all so good. The characterizations. If you listen to our interview with the vampire movie episode, you know Louis in the movie is one of my least favorite vampires to ever be on screen. Brad Pitt gives one of the worst performances ever. And I totally don't feel that way about Louis in here. We'll get more into that, of course, when we're going to be talking about the characters. But to be able to do that, to take a character that is such a, on the page, such a whiny character that I hate when vampires are whiny and woe is me, I'm a vampire. I hate that. But to take that character and take that struggle with that and add layers to it where you actually understand where that whininess is the quote unquote whine. I don't think it's whininess in this, but that complaining is coming from. And I like the twist with adding also with making Louis a Black man, I think is very important to this story. Adds a lot more dimension between his relationship with Lestat as well, and also with the time period. And I love how much more this show embraces sexuality. And I just think it's just perfect. I really don't have any issues with it. Just like Ishel said, there are characters on here I do not like. There's one character I cannot stand. But I love the performance, and I can't stand him, but in a way where it's not like I'm like, oh, I wish he wasn't on the screen. It's more like I don't like the character, but I feel like, I know some people do like the character, but I feel like you're supposed to feel conflicted about some of these characters. So yeah, I love it. I think it's great. It's my addiction. It's one of the best shows on TV right now. I think everybody should be watching this show. This is also Fergie the dog. This is her new favorite show. So she also loves this show. So yeah, it's just, so she would give it 5 as well. So I do want to know your overall thoughts, Ishel, on, and I know, Jen, you haven't read the source material, so you can comment more on the vampire lore and stuff like that, I know. But Ishel, what are your overall thoughts on how the show handles the source material and how it also handles vampire lore in general?
Yeah, I'll start with the vampire lore part because I know a little bit about that from what I've seen and read, but I don't feel like I'm like by no means an expert, but I'll start with that. So I really like where it has positioned itself in vampire lore and how it discusses that. We get an idea of how they're made, just like a slight idea, because we get to see him make Claudia and then Madeline in season 2. We get a little bit of their code through the Great Laws, and that's how some of them live and conduct themselves. They do have fangs. They feed on humans. They're biologically immortal, but they can be killed. These vampires, they can't walk in the sun. They can die out in the sun. And in this world that they're using Anne Rice's world, and so crosses and holy water and churches and all of that other religious stuff that we sometimes see in other vampire stories, that has no effect on the vampires in this one. And which I really kind of like that because it becomes part of when Lestat goes to Armand for the first time. He's like, you have built a life being afraid of all these things and they have no power over us. This is stupid. And they do make this show it's many things, but it is a gothic romance among the other things that it is. But there is horror. They are violent. They are not moral. They are not trying to be moral. Only Louis is having that internal battle. But I think that's because he knows that part of him is too comfortable being what he could be. And so he's trying to constantly challenge himself. So I do feel like that it fits in within vampire lore. And I think that it fits in horror too. I might be alone in that opinion, but I feel like it does, even with all of the love and the relationships. And like you said, it just adds depth to the characters, which I felt like was very important. So with that, I'll talk about the source material. I've read some of the books. I've not read all of them because there are a million of them.
Yeah, there are.
And I just found out that this was based on a book series in the past year or two. So I'm new to the books, but I have read some of them. And I will say that this is an adaptation that is using Anne Rice's material. And I think if you're trying to if you're expecting it to be a 1-to-1, or if you're trying to reconcile the book to the show, you're not going to enjoy the ride. You definitely have to see it as two separate things. And so I'm also kind of like you, Erin. I'm glad that I came to this separately. And it was very easy for me to separate the show from the source material. Book Louis was not my favorite. I did find him to be just whining all the time. And I wasn't very invested in him as a character. And I didn't even really understand why if you just read book 1 only, I didn't really even understand why he would even want to do the interview, just to be like, he made me do this. I didn't want to. I don't want to kill people. And I was just kind of done with him. But also with the show, and I agree, making Louis a Black character is so important. And also we get to see it impacts the story. It matters that he's a Black man. It matters that he has a Black family. We get to see his Black family. And also that makes because the big thing that happens in the book, even, his brother dies in the book as well. But I didn't really have anything invested in the brother just reading the book. But in the show, I actually got to see this family, and I got to see where why Louis feels like this character who is so burdened and so judged and so shamed, and also where that guilt that he feels comes from, to where he's constantly trying to prove that he's not a monster, he's not evil, he's not bad. Yeah, so there are some things that they've changed in the show, and I think so far, I agree with everything that they've changed for the most part. I agree with it. Like we said, making Louis a Black man, that matters in a lot of ways. It matters in the dynamic of him just in his society, but also, like you said, of him in that relationship with Lestat also. I like that Daniel is older. I think it's very clever the way that they are referencing that 1973 interview, and then they're revisiting that in 2022 and like, no, let's try that again, because actually, like, let's tell the true story this time. And so I like that he's older in this, and that he, like, in the books, he comes back and he does matter, but in the movie, he didn't really matter much. It could have been anybody. And I know that there's like more to that situation, but he really just kind of didn't matter. Yeah. It could have been Louis sitting in a room just talking to a tape recorder, and it essentially would have been the same effect. So I like that Daniel is in here and that he's older. Even, like, I'm cool with Claudia being aged up, because I understand that why this book was written by Anne, and that Claudia represents her daughter who was at around that age. But in the show, I kind of prefer her being aged up, especially because how the movie handled, and even how the book handles, the relationship between Louis and Claudia is kind of strange to me. Yeah, let's see. And also, like, I'll say this. I saw a really good comment somewhere. I can't remember where. I'm not going to be able to quote it word for word. But basically, it was saying, like, okay, so I'll get to the comment in a minute. But basically, if the foundation between the show and the books, like if the foundation is the fears, motivations, desires, wants, and needs of the characters, then the foundation of the source material and the TV show are the same, but they're building two different houses. Like, the novels build the house that made sense to Anne at that time, and the show is building a house that makes sense in 2022. Like, it's being adapted to make sense in the environment of television. And there are a lot of things, like, there are pages and pages of, like, where we're going to have Lestat sleep for 20 years on TV. Like, you're not going to do that. So you've got to, like, move plot forward, and you've got to do what makes sense on television. But it's also got to make sense in the climate of 2022 and beyond, you know, if the show keeps going for several seasons, which I hope it will. And, like, in 2022, I don't want to romanticize a slaver, and I don't think we need to see an Aryan white race of vampires on television. And so, like, they don't all need to be white, and they don't all need to, you know, have like pale skin or whatever. There are other ways to show that that physically show that they are vampires. So I really like that there's diversity in the casting and the characterization. So I think that they're trying to be respectful of the source material, and they're pulling things out to kind of, like, not pacify or reward, but to just kind of acknowledge and celebrate the fans of the books who have been around for decades, but they're also adapting it in a way that just makes sense for this environment and this climate. So that was a lot of my thoughts, but there you go.
Yeah, I know those were all awesome. And just in case you didn't see in the chat, Jen, you're okay with book spoilers, because there are a couple of things I was going to mention.
Yep.
But yeah.
Yep, that's fine, because I figure the readers have the book spoilers, so I can know them. That's fine. And go for it. Oh, wait, it's my turn.
So go spoil the book now, Jen.
So my only source material is the movie. So that's what I'm going to be comparing it to. And truly, this show is so much better than the movie. And believe me, I loved that movie as a young girl growing up, being horny for, you know, Brad Pitt, Antonio Banderas, Christian Slater, never Tom Cruise. So this movie had almost all of it. Kirsten Dunst was amazing. But in watching the show, there definitely are moments where I remembered, you know, like this bit or this line from the movie, and it was never like a comparison. I view it more as like the movie is like just a jumping off point, almost an outline for what the series is, because the show does such a great job giving us more about these characters, their feelings. Like, yes, in the movie, Louis is super whiny. Even Lestat at the end's like, oh, Louis, always whining. And like you guys said, we get more of a reason. And it's not just like whiny to be whiny, but we get more of his internal struggles and everything. And I love that. I love going deeper with these characters and getting to know them a little bit more, for better or worse. I like seeing kind of different versions of what a vampire lore, like what affects them, what doesn't. So I did get kind of a kick out of the whole, like, all these people are trying to wear garlic to keep the vampires away, and Claudia's just kind of laughing at them like, look at these fools and everything. So I really love that. I don't really think that there's one better than the other or a correct one. I think they can all be correct. I think they can all exist at the same time. And it is always kind of fun with vampires, when you take something that is traditionally associated with them, like the garlic, and you remove it completely and make it irrelevant. It makes it a little more fun, a little more interesting, and just a little different. So yeah, I think they're just doing such a great job with this show. The writing is fantastic. The acting is even better. Okay.
Yeah, I haven't read all the books either. I know stuff that happens. Like, I know, big spoiler here, and I don't know if they're going to do this on this show, but Daniel and Armand have a romantic relationship. And yeah.
What?
Yeah. When they're younger, though, when he's the younger one, and Daniel is begging Armand to turn him for years. And then he doesn't do it until older. But yeah.
Oh my God. Mm-hmm. I don't know how I feel about that. I'm going to need a minute with that. Okay.
So I don't know if they're going to do that in this at all with them. I don't know. So,
They have the two actors have Eric and Assad have joked about it, but I don't know if they know that it's coming or if they're just we know it's in the book, but I don't know, but they've joked about it. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's this whole plot, I can't remember what it's called, but it's what the plot line is. I can't remember now. I know people are yelling and screaming. I don't know, maybe our Patreon supporters aren't, but yeah, that's one thing. Another thing that I appreciate with Claudia being aged up is, and this is very disturbing, in the novels, she's 5 years old, okay? And so there's a lot of weird stuff with Louis and her. And I love that in this, they make it very evident that that's much more, to me, it's much more brother, sister, but it's also father, daughter. And it's very familial. There's no undercurrent of anything icky, which I really appreciate. But in the book, there's a part where Armand sews her head on the body of some an adult or something. It's really disturbing. Okay. It's something around that. I haven't read that. I've just read that happens. I don't remember reading that part. I don't remember that part. So I might have blocked it. I read this book when I was a teenager. So because it was one of those, everybody, I hung out with a lot of goths. And this was their religion was Interview with the Vampire. So I read it because of that. So I love this adaptation because like I said, the book is boring to me. And I think this adds a lot more depth to the characters, honestly, which I know might sound weird because novels usually can do a better job at that. But I think they're just more interesting. All the characters are more interesting, which we're going to talk about them in a second here. But I also think having Louis be a Black man and having the time period a little bit adjusted and the whole New Orleans of it too, I think was very important because you do have different dynamics then that come in and different struggles that he has. And like you said, Ishel, you get to know his family, which you don't really get to know his family in the books. And I mean, his brother commits suicide. And that was one of the most heartbreaking scenes in season 1. I was like, holy shit, because I knew it was coming. The way he said that, I was like, oh, fuck. And that shapes Louis. And I think that's where a lot of Louis's whiny, quote unquote whiny, I don't think he's whiny, this guilt comes from. So I appreciate that we got to know them better, and that's better. As far as going also from the source material of the movie, which is what I've seen more, I still really love the movie. I talked about that. I still maintain, even with this other Lestat, I still maintain that Tom Cruise did a fantastic job because he knew what he was doing. much better than Brad Pitt, one of the worst performances ever. And so I maintain that I still love that Lestat, and I'll get into the other one in a second. But I think this is, I really like that was like you said, Jen, where the movie is like the outline and the blueprint, and then this kind of takes it further. Because honestly, it really does, especially with the characters I like more than anything from the movie. And it does, it expounds on that. It basically is like, those are the building blocks, and it's just building a bigger, like, what's the word I'm looking for? But a bigger village, a bigger picture. And you get to know the characters more, which of course, because it's a TV series, so of course you get a chance to do that more. And I think it's better to explore this universe in a TV show than in a movie, frankly, because there's so much going on here. And so I think that's better. As far as the lore goes, what I appreciate is that these are monsters, okay? They are not good. They're not inherently evil, although they do evil things. They are killers. They horrendously murder people. And so you never forget that they are killers, but they also have that struggle of still having a little bit of their human side to them and wanting connections. And what does that look like when you're a vampire? And so I like a little twist on that where it's really focused on the relationships, and you get very little of human beings, except in season 1, you do more when you're talking about Louis' family. But in season 2, it's much more about the vampires and their dynamics together. And so I like that. And I like that certain things don't affect them and then certain things do. I think the power of, the sun having so much more, I think the sun's impact and the sun's effect on them is even stronger than in most vampire lore, honestly, because it's like, that is the biggest killer for them, is the sun. And it's an interesting conversation about light and darkness and how the light is such this enemy of them, and how when there's any kind of death, the way they do it is so powerful when you're watching them just kind of like just blowing away, bits of them blowing away. When Louis attempts to kill himself in season 2, when they're during the episode 5, which is like a episode, when he attempts that, watching him up there and watching bits of him just fly away, and you're just like, how in the world is he still alive? It's really, really powerful. And of course, when Claudia dies, which is just heartbreaking. So I like the fact that the sun is even more powerful as far as like a quote unquote weapon, but like an enemy of them, or what could kill them. And I always like when garlic has no effect on them, because I think that's one of the silliest parts of vampire lore, to be quite honest, is garlic, because it doesn't I don't know why garlic would be like the bad breath. They just don't want to smell your bad breath while they're sucking your blood. I don't know.
Maybe it changes the taste of the blood, and they're just like, yeah, no, kind of like, eating asparagus and whatnot. Like, they're just like, no.
Oh, that's, yeah, it could be that. Could be that, too much garlic and that's all you just taste. And yeah, maybe it's that. I don't know.
Everything feels easier in the summer, or at least it should. The days are a little more relaxed, and you just want those pieces that are comfortable and can be worn again and again. This episode is sponsored by Quince. Quince focuses on well-made essentials that naturally become those everyday staples you actually live in all season long. Their tees are soft enough to live in all day, and their lightweight cotton sweaters are exactly what you want when summer nights cool down. Everything at Quince is priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. They work directly with ethical factories to cut out the middlemen, so you're paying for exceptional quality, not brand markup. Quince's linen shirt is a game changer. You can wear it an embarrassing number of times this summer, and it never goes out of style or out of comfort. And Quince isn't just about clothing. It has become a trusted favorite for everything from home to travel to everyday essentials. Make your summer wardrobe easier. Go to quince.com/wizardio for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com. quince.com/wizardio for free shipping and 365-day returns. quince.com/wizardio.
But we're going to get to the characters and your overall thoughts on the characters. And do you have a favorite character, Isha?
I do have a favorite character, but you will have to wait till I ramble through all this stuff to get to that. I will say that this is a show that I watch with like notebooks, and like I watched Queer as Folk with a notebook. I watched The Walking Dead with notebooks. I watched so this is one that I've got like pages of notes on. I would love to be able to do like, I don't know, a deep dive into this show on a podcast one day, but I also am like terrified of its fans. So that will probably never happen. But anyway, so I'll just talk through some of the characters. So I'll just like, okay, let me just kind of narrow it down to like 6 or 7 that I can. Okay, so I'll start with, because there's a lot of folks going on in here. Okay, so I will start with Santiago. I love this version of Santiago. I know we're not trying to do a comparison thing because I did enjoy the movie and I do see them as separate standalone things. But I really thought that this version of Santiago was just like so mischievous and so charismatic and so sinister. And I just thought that, I think it's Ben Daniels, did a really great job with this Santiago. And like you really, so much so that you really fall for it, that he is the mastermind behind ultimately the trial and what happens with Claudia. Like he does a really good job to where you believe that he has masterminded all of this stuff going on. That happens in season 2. Daniel, I wasn't really sure how to take Daniel because again, when I first started watching the show, I had not read the books yet. So I'll tell you why in a minute, but I had like watched some episodes and I stopped watching and then I started reading. I watched the movie, then I started reading, then I went back to the show. But anyway, so I wasn't really sure how to take Daniel at first, but then it got to where like he was speaking my language as he starts to like call BS on some stuff. And so then I really got to appreciate him because I was like, why did he come back like being so jaded? And after this, but then you see like when we actually see what happened in 1973 and Louis and Daniel they were like both traumatized in different ways and kind of by the same person during all of that. And so they have this very interesting trauma bond between the two of them. And so I like that. I mean, we're spoiling everything anyway. So I like that at the end of season 2, we see them and it's kind of this interesting like big brother, little brother thing between them after Daniel's been turned. So like Daniel as a character, ultimately got to where I like Daniel as a character. Armand, I did not trust him from the beginning. Okay? And I actually stopped watching the show because of Armand. Let me tell you why. So we were sort of, really because of Louis, I guess. But so, I'm watching 1 through 5 and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so good. But then 105 happens and that's when there's like the big fight and Lestat is like this horrible monster kind of person toward Louis, which again, you have to remember that you can't really believe everything you see in season 1, only half of what you see in season 2. And so like, yes, you got to know all that. But anyway, so I'm watching season 1. I'm like, oh my gosh, this show is so good. I love this acting. Like I'm always here for some queer stuff. And so I'm just like really getting my life with this show. And then that happens in 105. And I'm like, how are they going to redeem this? Because like I was really here for the, what they call it, Lestat, like their ship name, whatever. I was really here for that. And then I was like, they have ruined it. It's over. And so I'm like, well, if that's what they're going to do, I don't want to see this. Like if they're not going to, I don't want to watch this. I'm just going to make up an HEA in my own mind and I'm going to move on. So I go on the internet that day I don't know if I was intentionally trying to spoil myself or not. Who knows? And I saw there was, how Google will like recommend questions for you or whatever. And so one of them said like, who is the love of Louis' life? Well, I click it and it says Armand. And I'm like, absolutely not. I don't want it. They are trying to sell me on this and I'm not buying it. And so I was like, I'm not watching the show. Forget it. And then so then I had to watch the movie for the podcast. And then I was like, okay, let me check out the books. And then that's when I started to say like, okay, all is not what it seems probably. So then I got back to it. So I do think Assad is doing an amazing job as Armand, but I do not like Armand either. So when you sent that message about Armand and I said I'm going to put a pin in it, is because I didn't want to like tell you what I thought about him yet, but I don't like him either. But yeah, he's really killing it as that character though. But like we got to see a little bit of his story, and like one of the quotes in the show is like all vampires are born from trauma. And so like, of course, he is no exception. And so there's trauma around him. But also he was like he's not like a young child like Claudia, but he is a younger vampire. So there is this like, he's like stuck in this permanent immaturity or insecurity in some ways. And it comes out in these very petty, but very menacing and very evil ways sometimes. But yeah, so lots of thoughts about Armand, but I'll move on for the sake of sharing the mic and in time. Okay, so I'll go to Claudia. I think that a slightly older Claudia makes her more formidable because we kind of have to see, but if you go from like the books and kind of into the show, then it's really the reason that they kill Lestat is because really Claudia manipulates Louis to go along with her because she is she hates both of them for creating her, essentially her, and like damning her to this life that she has to live as a child vampire. And so if she was the one who like masterminded the having like Lestat's murder or whatever, I feel like her being a little bit older makes her more formidable. The Baby Lou stuff was like such great writing to remind us, because even though we see her out here and she's got this, there's so much like anger in her and she tries to be very self-sufficient. And so like it would be easy to forget that she is a child. And also because the actor, I mean, I feel like she can look like a teenager, but she doesn't look like a child. And so the Baby Lou thing was a way to remind the audience of that. And just like Armand was like, you're going to be Baby Lou for 50 years. And that is like the worst thing, like the worst prison to put her in. But I thought that was like such good writing. And I know they had to switch out actresses, but I think Delaney came in and killed it. I think she's doing a great job. And I actually feel like it worked for them to switch her at that time because she is forever changed after season 1. And so I think it worked to see her in a totally different skin anyway with that. Yeah, but the reveal of how and why she was created just really makes you feel for her. And then she has this thing with Madeline going, and I love that. Like I was so drawn into that, and I was so happy for her to have someone who chose her and who picked her, because at this point she's like, I need to find my own companion. Like Louis is not doing it for her as her companion, and they've really just gotten to the point where she's definitely outgrown him, but also he can't be her companion because he truly still belongs to Lestat, and so he can never fully belong to her or fully prioritize her. So anyway, love Claudia. Louis, I did not love Dubai Louis because he felt too sterile and too like, I don't know, there's just something about him that didn't feel genuine, you know, at the beginning when we first meet him. But I immediately loved New Orleans Louis. But as the season went along, I would get very frustrated with him. Like as we started to see like how it felt like he so easily went along with Armand's stuff. And it's like, why doesn't any of this, like, why aren't you questioning these things? Like, why doesn't this feel weird to you? And it's like, oh, because Armand has been screwing with his mind for decades. and so then it like slowly starts to kind of unfold and we see a bigger picture. But I really like Louis, and I think that Jacob Anderson is doing a phenomenal job with that character. Lestat, Erin, you will understand this. He is my Brian Kinney. Like,
yes.
He is my Brian Kinney. And no matter what you say or what they show me, you will never make me hate him. And because there is so much to him, he is so layered. And even though we see him as this, like, again, don't believe everything you see, because the only times that we get a glimpse of the real Lestat in season 1 and 2 is like in the letter with him as a little bit with him as Dreamstat, even though that's really kind of Louis, but there's some real memories tied into it. And then at the end, the reunion between them, like that's really the only times that we get to see like the real Lestat. But yeah, that is my favorite. You can never make me hate him. I feel like Sam Reed is like doing his big one in this role. He is absolutely amazing. And I think that he is playing him. And there are hints that we get in the dialogue in different scenes. Like there is so much more going on than what we see on screen. And I feel like he's doing a really great job of showing us that, like even at the trial where he seems a little bit off and he seems confused and he seems like weaker and just like, we don't have the full story yet, but something else is going on there. And so while season 1 establishes him as this great monster, like I think anytime you actually see what's supposed to be, or like all the different stories don't add up, you know? And so like, you know that there's got to be more to it than that. It's got to be more than, like in the book, it's like he wants the plantation, and that's why he's like, you're going to be my companion. I'm going to live here with my dad. Move over. And so, but there's just so much more depth to him. And a lot of what he's doing is motivated by his love and loyalty to Louis. Like sometimes even when he is punishing Louis, it's because like he's watching Louis basically kill himself by not eating, by starving himself and refusing to do what he needs to do to survive, and to just like embrace it. You're a killer, Louis. That's what he says. And anyway, so sorry. I could go on and on, but I love Lestat. He is my absolute favorite character in this series.
Yeah, that Brian Kinney thing, I hadn't even thought of that, but that is very, very true. So Carla, if you're listening to this before watching it, don't make that make you not want to watch it, and don't judge Lestat. Although knowing Carla and Carla's taste in vampires, I think it'll be a little different, but hopefully. But I understand exactly what you're saying, because that is very...
Okay, I knew that would make sense to you.
Very true. And whenever Jen decides to watch the best show ever on television, Queer as Folk, maybe Jen will understand too. So, Jen, what are your overall thoughts on the characters, and who is your favorite character?
So, like, Louis fine. I do like.
I get it.
I do like Louis. I think, oh my God, Jacob is doing an amazing job. There was, I think it's like season 2, first episode. He has some sort of like monologue. I don't remember, but it was amazing. It was emotional. And I'm just like, give him all the awards. I think it's when he starts to remember more things, like more like kind of about Claudia and what she had gone through, and him feeling that emotion, Dubai Louis feeling that emotion. And it's just, oh my God, it's so the phenomenal acting. So I think it's mostly the actor that I'm really following and mesmerized by, in a sense, because he's doing such a great job with this character. And yeah, like during season 1, you're kind of like, okay, this is, obviously this is Louis' story. It's very, he's very troubled, or, in the beginning and whatnot. And you're just like, oh, poor Louis. And then by season 2, you're just like, wait a minute. I mean, still poor Louis, but like, okay, yes, memories are flawed and unreliable. So I really appreciate not really being able to trust the full narrative of all the seasons, and trying to find somewhere kind of in the middle of what is, quote, the truth. So I love that, because now it's like, between Louis not really fully remembering things, having his memory wiped and whatnot, it's like, okay, what is true, what isn't, what was forgotten, what was misremembered. I love all of that, because it gets me just down that rabbit hole. Just like, oh my God, what's happening? I do love Claudia in this. I totally agree that the change in actresses totally makes sense. And I actually thought it was intentional to kind of show that Claudia has grown and is different in season 2, not just mentally and emotionally, but how that could kind of come through and have a person appear to be different. Both actresses did a great job. I think that Bailey Bass did amazing in season 1, kind of portraying that younger Claudia, angry, that forever teenager Claudia. And then I feel like season 2, she's more with her emotions. She's older. She's not afraid to kind of convey that and be like, I'm pissed off. This is fucked. I don't want this. I want just more definitive, I guess, or more kind of secure in herself as she's going on this journey and looking for more vampires. And I think that what's her name? Delaney is the season 2 actress. Mm-hmm. But she does such a great job with conveying like her wants, her needs, and her anger. And then her on trial and Lestat on stage, and kind of that little moment they have before she completely like burns away was I don't know. She just, it's so good. It's so like layered. There's a lot going on in such a quick little glance of like all the pain and anger, but fear as well. And like kind of a help me. It's like Lestat says at the end of season 2, it was almost like a daughter looking at a parent of help me. And it's for that character to express that to Lestat was, I don't know. See, weird noises, no complete sentences. Oh, I love it. It's so good. But she does such a great job and without needing to say anything. And all of that comes through. So I'm absolutely loving it. Obviously, aging her up is the right thing to do. Plus, I think it makes it more interesting because in season 1 and in season 2, they're like, she's forever 14, body wise and like hormonal wise and everything like that. And I just think that makes it that much more interesting. It makes her frustrations and her pain that much more like palatable and kind of relatable in some ways. So amazing job. Let's see. Daniel, I do really like Daniel, but I think that might be more with the actor. I think the actor looks like a journalist. and I love that he does push back, and there's been a few times where he pushes back almost a little confrontational and like he's not afraid. And then there's a couple of times where they kind of put him back in his place and whatnot. I don't like it when Dubai Louie like made him even shakier and kind of like that to show that he has that power over him. I didn't like that. I was like, that's not a good look, Louis. But I like that we kind of got to see Daniel a bit more vulnerable in those moments because there he's kind of like this. He's the journalist and he's kind of putting on this bit of a front of, tough journalist, kind of reunited with a dark moment in his past and trying to not be afraid of that. But clearly, I think he's got some nerves about all of that. But I love it. I thought it was great. At the end of season 2, when he's like doing the talk show or whatever, I was like, ew, he's all like smarmy and like gross. And then he takes off the sunglasses. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. I don't hate that. I was like, okay, that makes me like that moment a little bit better. And then, yeah, Armand, I'm sorry, he's too pretty to trust. Plain and simple.
He's too pretty to trust. I know what you're saying. Yeah.
So yeah, Erin, when you posted that, because I hadn't started season 2 yet, that you didn't like Armand, I'm just kind of like, ooh, what is it that she doesn't like? And so I'm already kind of not trusting him. It's not like I fully trusted him at the end of season 1 because I'm like, what the fuck? Especially when Louis is like, the love of my life. And then in the beginning of season 2, where they're just all like sitting all close and just being all saccharine and like gross, like finishing each other's sentences. Like, I don't trust that. So I didn't trust Armand. And then the way season 2 ends and everything, I was just like, ha, yes, bad person. But yeah, the actor is doing a really, really great job, and he is incredibly handsome. So he is at least fun to look at in that shallow sense. And then, yeah, just Lestat definitely is my favorite character. End of season 2 for sure. And like the trial, like season 2 pretty much solidified all of that. I liked Dreamstat. Is that what they called him? The Louis' version of him. And then kind of watching some of the behind the scenes stuff because I had the DVDs and how he changed how he walked and he kind of mimicked Louis and everything. I was like, that was so brilliant. I loved all of that. That's perfect. It's like all these kind of like details that you wouldn't necessarily think of, but they're there. They're subtle. So then when you revisit them, you're just like, oh, I'm an idiot. It's been right there in my face the whole time. And so I love that. And he, like I said, troubled, flawed, not great, charismatic, a lot of fun to watch. And then so emotional and so like, oh my God, at the end of season 2, when Louis and Lestat are talking, Louis comes back to New Orleans and finds Lestat, and Lestat's like remembering back to September 8th, 1973. He's like, it was this time here, so it would have been whatever time in San Francisco. And his voice cracks and he starts crying. He's like, did you hurt yourself? And my eyeballs just flooded. I'm like, oh my God, I was not emotionally prepared for that. So I love it. I love kind of seeing that moment of a vulnerable, concern, truly loving Lestat. Because kind of during season 1, it's almost like, all right, do you love him, or is there just like an infatuation, an obsession with him that you think is love? And I think that moment in season 2 and just kind of his overall emotions during the trial and him going, quote, off script, definitely, I think, shows that he does really, truly love Louis, but he just maybe kind of bad at showing it in a nicer way. Yeah, that's all I'll say. I mean, Santiago's a lot of fun to watch. He was a hoot. And again, I think a lot of that is the actor. I loved it. I loved it so much. So yeah, I think that's good for now.
Yeah, that scene between Lestat and Louis in New Orleans and in the season 2 finale, I have watched that an embarrassing number of times, I want to say, because it's such a beautiful scene and there's so much going on in that. And I cry every time I watch it, and I'll get to that at the end. Otherwise, I will just cry and not be able to talk about the rest of the characters. But it's such a beautiful scene, and I have watched it an embarrassing number of times. I will just briefly say with Santiago, it's funny because I like totally forgot this. I was like watching him like, I don't remember this character in the movie. And I'm like, oh, this is the character that Stephen, what's his name? What's his last name? It doesn't really matter. I'm like, oh, I think that's supposed to be that character, whatever, because he was pretty forgettable in the movie, I think. And he's so much fun. He's just having a lot of fun with this character. And I enjoy watching him, and I enjoy watching how he just really wants power. He's so power hungry, but he can't get the power that he wants. And so he likes to build himself up and puff himself up to be more than he is. And he's just fun to watch. Claudia in this is so, oh gosh, I love Claudia in the movie, but in this, I love her so much more because, oh, there's so much going on with her. In season 1, it's very much that, I think making her a teenager really works because when you're a teenager, you are on that precipice of, you are not necessarily still like a child, like a young child. And you're having all these changes with your hormones and your body and everything like that. And then you're starting to have to grow up, but you're not an adult. And so I think that's what makes her more interesting is she's got those teenage feelings and she wants to break free because teenagers are trying to find independence. And here she is being turned into a monster, being turned into a vampire, being turned into a killer who's going to remain in that feeling forever, that feeling of wanting to break free, wanting freedom, but being held back by, first it might be Louis, it might be Lestat, it might be Armand later. I think Armand and her have a really interesting dynamic because you can tell she's like, again, of course, I'm going to be second fiddle to Louis, and Louis is going to be like, I'm going to choose Armand, even though we had that conversation where it's you, me, you, me, you, me. Nope, not going to be that way, of course. And her trying to find somebody that puts her first and always feeling like she's second to everything. And I think that's the way you can feel a lot when you're a teenager. And so I think that's why it's good to make her a teenager. And when she starts having to play that little kid character in the play, that to me is so cruel, so mean. Just absolutely horrendous because that's basically rubbing salt in the wound. And while they present it like Santiago, that was Santiago's idea, it's Armand because Armand is a manipulator and that was his way of manipulating her because he also felt like she was a threat, I think. And he didn't like the fact that a child had been turned, which I understand that whole thing of not wanting to turn children. I think that is a good rule to have in the vampire world. But so that was so mean and cruel. And I think it's interesting that when she dies, she's singing the song that the character sings in the play. And I thought that was an interesting way of showing her almost like kind of just being a vulnerable, like really vulnerable, more vulnerable than she's been in a while. And her turning and looking at Lestat, and she's had so much anger at Lestat, and it's almost like that kind of disappeared a little bit. And like she's trying to reach out to him and go, you made me, you turned me, and I'm your child. And why are you letting this happen to me? It's a very heartbreaking scene. And the acting from everybody is amazing in that part. So I think she's so good. And I understand why she's no longer there. Of course, I don't know if we'll ever get any more flashbacks with her, but I'm very sad that she's gone just because I really loved watching her and I loved her being able to have a relationship that was outside of Louis and have some kind of semblance of she got a couple minutes of happiness. And I hope that she's at rest and at peace because she deserves that. So it's heartbreaking, but at the same time, it's kind of good in a way that she no longer has to suffer because I think she was in a lot of pain for a lot of that. And I do appreciate also that when her and Louis leave New Orleans and in the beginning of season 2, and she's really angry at Louis and she's not talking to him because, he didn't finish off the job with Lestat basically. And I appreciated that because I liked that it showed the complexity there in their relationship. And it wasn't just like, oh, we're going to go have fun now that we don't have Lestat. So I liked that a lot. And watching her trying to find other vampires and the disappointment when she first did. And then at first feeling so happy to be amongst this group and being welcomed in, her ceremony of being welcomed in, and then finding out that she's going to have to play this character forever and the heartbreak of that too. Armand, and it's funny and I feel so bad that I messaged that in the message because I thought you had already seen season 2, so I apologize. But it's funny because I said that I hadn't even gotten to episode 5 of season 2 and I didn't like Armand. And yes, there's a part of it, I like Louis and Lestat together. So yes, the shipper part of me when they hold hands and then this is the love of my life. Like, I'm like, what? Why? Yes, he's attractive, blah, blah, blah. But what? No, this is too like, flowy, romantic in the way it's presented. And I didn't like that. I want my vampire love to be very chaotic and not necessarily healthy. I mean, yes, Armand and Louis isn't healthy, but you know what I mean? Like there's like more of that romance involved in it. More like and I don't mean that, I don't mean this as the insult it might come off as, but more like the Twilight-y version of vampire romance. But I think that's what Armand wants Louis to see, because there's a lot of unreliable narration in this, not just from Louis, but also from Armand. Armand is manipulating this. And when I started realizing Armand was really manipulating things, I mean, there's certain things that he does before this episode, but in episode 5, he is so cruel and so mean in that episode. The stuff that the way he treats Daniel, the way he talks to Louis, who is suicidal, was not very loving. It didn't feel loving. It felt like he was like saying, now you're going to make me have to sit here and maybe lose you, or you're going to make me have to sit here and deal with your recovery. And I don't want to deal with that. And I can't believe you're putting this on me. And a lot of that, I think, comes from, and you learn that, in the finale, the fact that Armand basically, it's so interesting to me that he stays with Louis because he signed his death sentence. He was like ready for him to die because he's all about whatever makes him look good and whatever gives him power, because he's also power hungry. And I know in the books, there's a lot more to him where he was kind of in the cult thing that they kind of touch on in the series, but the vampire cult thing where they worshiped the one vampire. And I guess in the books, and I don't remember this, or maybe didn't get to this part, but where there's some abuse that he endures and some trauma that he endures. Because once again, vampires are born from trauma, or at least the vampires in this lore are. And so I understand that, but I think he's so manipulative and he just wants all this attention. I mean, he's a narcissist. And yes, vampires inherently, I think, are narcissistic, but he's like really narcissistic. And then in episode 5, when he's communicating with Lestat telepathically, and Lestat's like, tell him I love him, tell him I love him, and he doesn't tell him, I was like, fuck you. I was like, Louis deserved to hear that. And he doesn't get to hear that. And that was so, I was like, okay, now I really hate you. Because I was just like, and that's why when they were showing it, and I had to keep reminding myself, unreliable narration. But when they're showing it, like he's the one who's saving Louis and saying, banishment at the trial, I'm like, no, that should be Lestat. And then that's why I was so happy that it was Lestat. And I want to say on that note that Jacob Anderson, who plays Louis, who is fantastic, he said, I believe without a shadow of a doubt that if Lestat had the energy and the power, he would have saved both Louis and Claudia, but he only had the energy and the power to save one, and he had to save Louis. And I totally agree with that. I totally believe that. Oh, and then Daniel, I love Daniel. I absolutely adore Daniel. And I think, yes, Daniel talks back and he's very like the scene in the season finale. I'm like, Daniel, you're going to get killed. Just, oh my God, shut up. You're going to get killed. You're not safe. You're not safe. But there's also this twinge of fear in Daniel that you see sometimes. And I think it's because of what happened in San Francisco in the 70s. And so he still has that fear, but I think he's also like, he's older. He has Parkinson's and he's just like, fuck it. I'm just going to lay it all out. And I'm not saying like he's given up on living. I'm just saying he's kind of like at the point where he's like, a lot of shit has happened to me in my life. And you are just being, ridiculous vampires. I think that's the way it kind of feels. You're ridiculous vampires. And I love that he's the one that figures out what really happens. And when he tells Louis all of that, when he's asking all those questions, like, yeah, I just want to clear some things up. And the way he does that is very good. And the way he's like, Lestat saved you. It wasn't Armand. Lestat saved you. And I love that reveal. And I love that Louis doesn't question that. So I'll turn to Louis this way. I'll segue. But I think what's going on with Louis and the reason he's able to accept that so much is that he really does deeply love Lestat more than Armand. Like that, I think Lestat is really the love of his life. And he's got so much guilt that he's turned that on Lestat. And so he cannot accept that he loves Lestat because he feels Lestat represents the fact that his brother committed suicide, the fact that he doesn't have a relationship with his family. And that's what that scene, their final scene in season 2 is so much about, with him coming to terms with that, was saying, I didn't realize it was a gift. And him accepting that. And, that's why that scene is also so beautiful. So Louis, to me, like I said, in the movie, I hate Louis. But I have complicated feelings about Louis in the show. I love him. But the complicated feelings were more around where he would be more holier than thou kind of thing, which I also think Armand does. And it was more that I am above all the other vampires. And I think he did that as a way of trying to assuage his guilt from all of those years ago and from all the stuff happening and the stuff with Claudia, like him not allowing himself to remember that he was the one who dragged her body. And that's different from the book. So yes, I know people want that's different than the book, but the fact that he dragged Claudia's body and basically forced Lestat to turn her. And he didn't want to deal with that guilt. And he wanted to turn it where this was all on Lestat and everything is Lestat's fault. None of it is my fault. And then when he slowly realizes that and slowly coming to terms with that, and Armand is quick to jump on that because Armand has so many mixed feelings about Lestat. And so he's been fed this line from Armand that, yes, it's okay to feel that way. So yeah, so I think the Louis in here is just a much more interesting character And I love how it ends where he's basically embracing who he is and that he is a vampire. And he's just like, come and get me. I own the night and I'm a killer, that kind of thing. I love that. And then with Lestat, this is also my favorite character. The Brian thing is just really going to stick in my head now. And yes, Lestat is evil. I mean, really, he is evil. He kills people. He's not necessarily quote unquote good, but he's also very layered and there are a lot of depths to him. He's a very lonely character. And I think that's kind of in Louis, he found home. And I think he had felt so alone for so long. And then Louis was like, this was the great love of his life too. And Sam Reed, like, he's like I've read it being called that he's like possessed by Lestat. It's like he is channeling this character in everything he does, and he adds so much layers to it. And this is like Sam Reed has said this is like his dream part. He's wanted to play this character, so it was his dream to play this. So he got to play it, and he's so good. He's sexy. He's vulnerable. He's charming. He's like, he's a little brat is the way I've heard people also talk about him. And he's all of those things. And he's also just so deeply emotional. Like he just feels very deeply. And I think that's kind of where some of his problems come from. But the scene in the series, in the season finale of season 2, that scene in New Orleans, and in the movie you see a little bit of that with Tom Cruise, and when Louis comes there, and and you see a little bit of a different side, but then of course you've got Brad Pitt, and so it's all screwy and doesn't work as well. But this is so beautiful because of the fact that you see this character who's so powerful, but he's so broken by grief and guilt over Claudia, and he's also scared. He's scared of Louis. And you see a little twinge of that. He's scared of why Louis might be there. And you see it when he's got that cardboard, keyboard, and he's holding it. And then when Louis kind of steps forward and you see him do this quick little like scared thing, he holds it. And then when Louis asks if he saved his life, and he's like, why didn't you tell me that? And I just love that he says, I don't like to espouse my virtues. I just love that line. I laugh every time. So he's trying to get back to that bratty when he doesn't want to completely let down the wall. And then, he's like, well, and besides, I knew you'd fill it out. You'd find it out. And the way he says, hail me, and his voice breaks a little bit. So it's like he can't quite keep up that facade of being that, cocky know-it-all, that he has been. And then in the final scene, when Lestat is saying that whole thing about in San Francisco, and did you hurt yourself? And, that's after Louis has said that whole thing. I didn't realize it was a gift. I didn't realize what you had done for me. And I'm sorry. And he confesses that he made some mistakes too, because up until this point, you get the impression Louis doesn't think he did anything wrong when it came to Lestat. And now he realizes he did, and he's confessing some of those. And watching Lestat realizing what this is a moment of these two characters forgiving each other for what they have done to each other. And also forgiving each other for Claudia. And it's a beautiful scene. And with Lestat saying, she looked at me like a father, and then Louis just hugging him was so, oh my God, that's when I just start crying, because it's so beautiful. They both do such a good job in that scene. And it's just two people who have totally let down their walls, and they're being completely real and completely vulnerable for the first time ever with each other. And I love that they're both talking to each other and you don't hear what they're saying at the end. And Jacob Anderson has said they know what they did say stuff to each other, but only the two of them will ever know what they said. And I just think it's just a beautiful way to end the season. I mean, yes, we also have the reveal of Daniel being a vampire, which at first I didn't know if I was going to like that, but I like it now. But yeah, I think Lestat is just one of the best vampires ever. and Sam Reed is just doing such an incredible job. I don't know if both of you have watched the little teaser for season 3, but holy crap. You need to watch it, Jen. I've watched it like an embarrassing number of times.
Oh boy. Yeah, I haven't seen, I think I was just more caught up because I was like, I need to catch up on season 2. So I haven't even season 3 isn't even on a radar of any kind yet, but it is now. I will watch the teaser.
Because season 3, because I want to get to that now, is just briefly, just if there are any hopes that you have, because season 3 is also vampire Lestat. So it's based on that, with the books. If you don't mind spoilers, Jen, this Lestat was a rock star, was like a musician. And so from the little teaser, it looks like they're going more the glam rock route. And I'll have to, I'll send that right now in the DM. So, Ishel, do you have any hopes for season 3? I don't say that like.
Yeah, I do. I have many, but can I squeeze in just 2 little things before I talk about that? I'll be quick.
Okay.
I just want to say this because I think it matters. In season 1, when Louis is doing the first interview and talking to Daniel, he's not painting a picture of this violent, abusive monster. He's like, his music was soulless and he was scrawny and he was stupid and he thought that he was so cultured, but he didn't know anything. And so it's a very different thing. It's all very petty insults and exaggerations that are meant to provoke Lestat. We find out that's the reason that he did the interview. He really kind of wanted to provoke Lestat and maybe get him to come chase after him and find him. But Lestat only becomes this horrendous monster that we see in season 1. We find out after Armand has started messing with his mind. And so, yeah, sure, I'm sure that there are going to be some monstrous ways about him because he is a vampire. And he is a brat, and he's proud, and he's got his own insecurities, and he victim blames himself, and the boy's got issues. But anyway, it's going to be interesting in season 3 to see if he is a monster, what kind of monster is he? Also with Armand, he hates that Claudia is Lestat's child, and definitely that he's Louis and Lestat's child, because he is so pressed and bothered by this unrequited love that he has for Lestat and how he was so jilted by him. And so he knows that Louis is never going to belong to him in the same way. And the best way for him to hurt Lestat is to kill Louis and to make Lestat have a hand in that by making him come to that trial. And even the 77 years that they have together, which, excuse me while I throw up, based on the information that we currently have, it was still about Lestat. This was Louis's way to punish Lestat. It was I'm going to be with Armand to punish you. So yeah, that's all gonna be interesting. But okay, yes, that season 3 trailer, honey, yes, I have watched that a million times. It is so good. That could be a whole episode. It is so good. So I can't wait to meet the real Lestat. I want to see him in all of his mercurial, charismatic, powerful, yet vulnerable glory. I want to know what really happened in Paris. How in the world did they convince Lestat to come to Paris and to rat on Louis in that trial when we know how much he loves Louis? And I think that whatever they did to him, in the book, there are things that Armand did to him to weaken him. He starved him. They abused him, all this stuff, probably some mind control going on. And so that's why, he only had the power to save, what you were saying, he only had the power to save Louis. But I want to know more of that story, what was going on while he was in Paris. Even him being there in Magnus's lair when they find him, if that's really how that went down, just what is going on in his mind. This is the place of his captor and his abuser and this man who turned him against his will. I want to know what was going on in his mind when he goes back to that place. I want to see if they bring out Akasha in this season, in season 3, or if we'll have to wait because we know that it's his music that awakens her this time. I want to hear conversations between Vampire Daniel and Vampire Lestat because I think that's going to be a really fun time. And I feel like Daniel, like you said, he was the one putting it together. Wait a minute. Because what you're saying to me about Lestat now, oh, he had, he manipulated me. He did this. He did that. He's that's not really the picture you were painting before. This is different. So he started to figure things out and see something all wasn't perfect in Pleasantville there in Dubai. So even though he doesn't really know the real Lestat yet, he already knows that there's more going on there. So I'm looking forward to that. I want to know more about Nikki, and I want to see if we're going to get a glimpse of Lestat's relationship with his mom, because that's another complicated thing. All of his family was pretty terrible. His mom didn't really have the capacity to love him well, and then in the book, it's a little bit like, there's some blurred lines in that relationship. And so I'm interested to see how they're going to handle that. And probably in addition, like, okay, the most important thing is I want to see the real stat, but probably like second to that, or maybe like right on par with that, I want to know what reconciliation between Louis and Lestat will look like. Now, listen, they are toxic, but I am slipping under. Like, give me that stormy romance. Like, I want it. And like, they really are the hurricane that we see at the end of season 2. Like, that is really kind of symbolic of their relationship. But when the two of them are like clinging to each other in it, like they're fine, or they're able to like, I don't know, like that's kind of all that matters. Like, like those words that were exchanged, like they're the only two that are going to know that. They're the only two that are going to understand that bond between them, even though they are, like Claudia said, this stormy romance. So I am very excited for more of the two of them together in season 3. So that's a little bit of what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, I hope they don't do the whole mother part. But anyway, so
I know. Yeah, I don't want to go. Hopefully they change that up, like how they changed it up with Louis and Claudia. Like I don't really need to see that incestuous deal going on there. Yeah. Oh, and something else that you said, I want to see like just how much self-acceptance that we're getting of Louis. Like, is he really accepting that he's really the one responsible for Claudia's death? Because Lestat knew that her destruction was inevitable. Maybe not in this way, but he was like, she is going to absolutely hate this and hate us because of this. And at some point, it's going to tear her to pieces. But yeah, I want to see what Louis would like bring, welcoming the color back into his life, like in physical, literal ways. Like he's changed the place in Dubai. But I also want to see like what he looks like outside of hiding. So, okay, I'm going to stop now.
And Jen?
I think this is where like not knowing the books is, because like I don't know what could or couldn't be shown and what could be really exciting or could be disappointing. So really, I just want more Lestat. all levels, all facets of him. I want more of it. And then when they're in Magnus's lair, he mentions, you know, he has Magnus's blood, and then also the other one that Armand didn't know who that was. So I was like, oh, is that like Queen of the Damned? I haven't watched that movie in like a billion years. So Erin's face. So I'm like, okay, are we kind of going to be dipping into like that, some of those characters or some of that storyline? I assume it will come into play, because otherwise why mention it at the end of season 2? I don't care. It's gonna be great, and I'm excited. So I don't have this like you know, detailed like, you know, hopes and everything like a shell, because I'm just like, it's fun. I want more. Just give me more. So
yeah, I'll just say it has to be better than Queen of the Damned. Anything they do has to be better than Queen of the Damned. That was such a bad movie. Yeah, I love the little teaser, because you get in just like 2 minutes, you get like little glimpses of all sides of Lestat. And once you watch it, you'll understand Jen, especially a couple lines that he says when you first see him, because he's sitting down like being interviewed. And it's great. So I'm very excited for a season that I think will be more from his point of view. So I'm excited for that. I'm really excited for that. And I do want to see more Louis in this acceptance and in this, like, I own the night role, instead of just this, I'm better than the rest of you role. I hope Armand is suffering greatly. And then I will be curious to see Daniel as a vampire and how he's handling that. And I'll be curious to see if they do try and explore the Daniel and Armand dynamic. And I wonder if we'll get to see like a flashback of Armand turning Daniel. That would be curious. I'd be curious to see that and that conversation, since Armand was so opposed to ever turning anyone. So I'd be very, very curious to see that scene. Yeah, since it's like he did it out of spite. But and I want to see Louis and Daniel continue this interesting dynamic that they have as well. So yeah, in their conversations. So that'll be curious. But yeah, and I'm excited to see musician Lestat. So yeah, and I'm sure we will talk about season 3 when that happens on the show. But we're going to go ahead and close this out. So I'm going to have my two panelists tell you, my lovely Patreon supporters, where they can be found in their podcasts and stuff. And Eshell from Liberty Diner Dish, you can also let everybody know also about your convention happening next year.
Yeah, for sure. So you can find my podcast, Liberty Diner Dish, wherever you stream your podcast. If we're not somewhere there, please send us an email and let us know, and we will get at it to that place. You can also, so my convention, if you are a lover of romance stories that center queer dynamics, Queers and Quills might be something for you to check out. That is a book convention happening in Portland, Oregon. And so you can find more information about that on the website, queersandquills.com. We are on Instagram and Facebook. And yeah, that's what I got going on.
And then Jen, my podcast, Brain Twin, where can your podcast, my streaming bubble?
You can follow me and the podcast, whatever, on Twitter at Streaming Bubble, no my in that, Facebook, Instagram, and Threads as My Streaming Bubble. And you can listen on a podcast player near you. And then our monthly podcast that Erin and I host together is Twin It to Win It. And you can follow us on Twitter at Twin It to Win Pod, no second it in that, Facebook, Instagram, and Threads as Twin It to Win It Podcast. And you can listen on most podcast players.
Thank you so much again for listening. And remember, if you want other great bonus content like this, please click the link in the show notes or head on over to our website. It's a fandomthingpod.com. And click the Support Us tab there and become a Patreon subscriber today. And next week we are off, so no new episodes next week. But coming soon, the week after that, you are in for a treat. We are going to be talking about Practical Magic. Yes, I'm so excited to discuss this film. I wanted to do this as a way of celebrating the fact that we have, the sequel coming out that I know some people think isn't necessary. I don't care. Yeah, it's not necessary, but I don't care. I am excited for it. I want to watch it, even though, I wish Sandra Bullock didn't support AI, but I'm excited for it. So that is what will be coming in really soon. So in a couple of weeks, you'll see us back with that and back with our regular pop culture and fandom news episodes as well. And then just to let you know, the rest of the month for August, we're finally going to be doing the iconic Black sitcom Moms episode. We're going to be talking about Shrinking, the TV show as well. So those are our 3 episodes for August since we are off for the first week of August. But anyway, thank you so much for listening. And remember, until next time, it's a fandom thing. Black Lives Matter, Stop Asian Hate, and Free Palestine.